Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of my podcast, The Eidolon Wall. And welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in, Amber. It's good to see you. Unfortunately, guys, there has been a little bit of a change. Although the banner says that Andy is joining us, unfortunately, Andy was not available to be here, unfortunately, which he had something pop up. But we do have LanzTheMaster still joining with us. And yeah, and hopefully it should still be a good episode today as well. Because today we are going to be talking about the Reaper's game from the World Ends of View. And hopefully we can go a bit more in depth about the Reaper's game, what it is, the mysteries behind it, and just generally the whole significance of the game itself. But yes, of course, like as it shows as well, I am not alone here. I have with me the Master, LanzTheMaster. So for everyone who knows him, knows Lanz, you know that he's an amazing dude. Yeah. So hello, Lanz. Welcome in. Welcome in.
Barbara. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for once again joining. Can everyone hear Lanz as well, please? Anyone can hear Lanz, please let me know if you can hear him fine. But yes, again, thank you so much for agreeing to join me today. Hopefully we will have a good talk today. But yeah, for those who don't know you, Lanz, why don't you introduce yourself for those who don't know you, and just tell a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm first off, name's Lance, and I do a lot of Kingdom Hearts challenges on Twix, and I post them on YouTube. I'm probably mostly known for my Riftmaster stuff. The Riftmaster being it's a modern day guitar controller, and I do a lot of low damage ones throughout the Kingdom Hearts series with it. And I'm also a day one. I'm a day one Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm also a day one The World Ends of View fan. Admittedly, my knowledge is a little bit fuzzy, especially on the OG Tui. I remember I beat it. I did beat it on the original DS, but I tried to do a refresher a few years ago on the Switch, and I was struggling. So the control, I actually dropped it because I thought the controls were really bad, and I was actually hurting my wrists.
Yeah.
And I was doing the limit cut. I think I was doing all pro codes at the time, and I was like, I can't hurt my hands and fuck up my run. So.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I'm glad that you could join me for this. And whether your memory is woolly or not, hopefully it will come back to you, or you'll get some new knowledge in this episode today as well.
I did use the anime to help before I played Neo. The anime left out some critical stuff that I felt would have been nice to know going to Neo, because there was definitely parts of Neo I'm like, who is this? But there was a lot of final remix content that I unfortunately didn't get to see.
Yeah, because unfortunately it's locked behind the Switch version, which does suck. But yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully who knows? Maybe you'll be able to hopefully learn some more about the Reaper's game while you're here as well.
Indeed.
But yes, of course, guys. So it also begs the question: what is the Reaper's game? For those who don't know, the Reaper's game in the World Ends of View is a week-long game where people who have died have a chance to become players in the game, and they basically do the game a week's worth of missions in the game to get a new chance at life. And the missions are definitely varied. There's all sorts of kind of missions, from some picking something up, beating an enemy, etc. But there's a lot of nuances with the Reaper's game that some are shown, some are not. And hopefully in this podcast episode we can delve into some of those nuances and some of those themes within the Reaper's game. Like, the concept of it being a game of life and death itself. Why? It's out of all the fake ways to give someone a new chance at life. Why a game where they have to go against other players? Why a fighting kind of survival game? And it's never explained in the games why they do it in a survival game kind of format. Um, and it can be thought that maybe it's to simulate the survival that people go through everyday life. The daily struggle of trying to get work, trying to do this and that to make ends meet. But obviously on a grander scale, maybe to prove that they are ready to survive in real life. But when it comes to the survival game itself and that kind of it's a game of life and death. What are your thoughts on that, Lanz? Like that kind of theme with the survival in it.
See, I think it's a really good way to give people that second chance,
Mm.
because it's like the Reaper's game is it's ugly, right?
Mm.
It's grimy. It really like puts the players, like it makes them like the whole premise is to who wants it the most,
Mm.
who really wants a second chance, because a second chance at life, like that's for someone who lost their life. That's there's really nothing like more like there's really no bigger goal,
Mm.
obviously, um, beyond that. So it really gives the players the test to showcase why they should get a second chance at life,
Mm.
and and whoever comes out on top, gets that second chance at life.
Mm. Yeah, because as you say, it definitely seems to be a competition of who is the most worthy of it. Trying to prove, are you worthy of that second chance, or are you going to make something of your life when you get your life back, or are you just going to waste it and do the same, and are you not going to learn anything? Because as we've noticed on the Reaper's game as well, and I'm sure you've noticed with with what you were able to play of the OG and the Switch version as well, there's a lot of the characters go for a lot of growth during the game. Um, the main character,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, the main character himself, Neku. He he is very antisocial. He doesn't want to let people in. He doesn't want to tell people what he's feeling. He doesn't care. He's very cold hearted, like just shut off. But then as the game goes on, he starts to socialize more, and he starts to open up and see that people are an important part of his life as well, and he should let them in. And it definitely seems like the Reaper's game is also not just like you said, not just a test to see who's worthy, but also it seems to be one big week long lesson where you the players are constantly having questions thrown at them of, again, do they deserve the second chance at life, and can they change into a person to make that life better? Can they change to make that life better? Like again, Neku, he is very antisocial, but by the end of the game, he opens up. He lets people in, and he's got actual friends that he cares about. And it's definitely a nice it's definitely a nice play on the theme of human nature as well, and how humans can change. And even smaller things like Shiki, realizing that she was admitting she was jealous of her best friend this whole time, and and that she didn't need to be like her best friend, she just needed to be herself. And it definitely the game definitely seems to have this whole, again, like you said, test to prove who can do you deserve, are you worthy to get the second chance. But again, in the same vein, it's like, although, can you are you willing to change, and learn to get that second chance? What do you
I just
think?
want to say like a week to change is not a lot of time.
Oh yeah, oh definitely, yeah.
Actually, because like in like real life, I was like anime
Hmm.
bullshit, but like it really, if people who have like problems, like like personality problems and like
Hmm.
character flaws, it takes a long. It's not an overnight thing, and
Yeah.
I think like a week is like kind of like an overnight thing. I mean, obviously, like for story reasons,
Mm.
it is like a week, but like it takes a really long time to change. Like as
Mm.
somebody who does a lot of like who does a lot of self
Mm.
evaluations like throughout the year and like what can I how can I be better
Mm.
how can I be a better man, something I ask myself like often every few months, and I can definitely say that like it takes like months, maybe
Mm.
even years to kind of like if you want to improve something. And obviously, we as humans, like those situations where we can't really change who we are. Like we are who
Mm.
we are in some ways, but there's definitely like flaws, like we talked about a little bit ago, like Neku. A lot of Neku's
Mm.
flaws were a really like a really like uh fixable, the fixable flaws,
Mm.
and he, but in the same breath though, like if you're trying to get a second chance at life, I think it's like it's a scenario where you learn fast. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
urgency, and when in a high urgency situation, like having a second chance, like a potential second chance at life, I do feel um, the players probably would learn. What I said earlier, like it takes like a long time to like change and whatnot, but like
Mm-hmm.
in the Reapers game, it's kind of like the whole. It's like the famous saying, "You go and learn today." So that's kind of like I was not. I think it's a week long,
Yeah.
or in some cases longer than that. But but in like high urgency situations, you learn fast, and I really do think that like both Neo and
Mm.
OG really showed strong character development amongst the main cast of players throughout each game.
Mm. Yeah, like the change is definitely like you said, it's definitely harder to do change than what it is shown in the World Ends of You. And like Neku,
Yeah,
he's got like a crash course of it. He's shoved straight in. He's put into this game where he knows nothing about. He's got no memories about. And he's partnered with this person he has no clue about, no knowledge about. But then he just keeps being told, he needs to let people in. He needs to talk. He needs to, he needs to work with his partner. And it definitely pushes him to, pushes against his boundaries. Because where he even starts, to question, okay, maybe I should start actually talking to people. And it definitely feels like the Reaper's game isn't just a survival game. It feels like it's definitely as I said, it's like definitely a big lesson for the players. Like, like and I have a feeling I've always had a feeling that maybe it's like it's something to do with their kind of like the way they lived, and it's like it's not just a second chance, not second chance to a life, but a second chance to change how they live. Like with Beat, for example, his parents kept nagging at him to get his grades up, get a good school, do all this, do that, when all he wanted to do was just be the world's best skater. He didn't take things seriously. But then when he came into the Reapers game, he had to start taking things seriously, because Ryan was in danger, his new friends were in danger. It was a fight for survival. He had to really buckle down and realize, okay, I can't be the reckless idiot anymore. And it's definitely a crash course of change, and it shows that the Reapers game is definitely a very good. It seems to be the Reapers' own ways of pushing the players to again change and go outside their comfort zones. And it's it's definitely thought provoking about how each of these characters do end up changing. And moving on as well to another aspect of the Reapers game is how the Reapers game is done out as well. As I said, they do a mission each week, but they specifically have to partner up with one person. So for 2-man teams, and there's definitely there's definitely obviously the glaring flaw in the whole entire core of the Reapers game. Because as we see at the end, only one person can usually get another chance at life. So it makes it definitely makes it seem like the whole two partner thing is kind of futile, because it means but you're gonna have to both you and your partner have to fight for the right the chance to get back to life. But I've always found that the two player teams, it always, I found in my playing from the game that it leads to, because they have to trust each other as they go through. So I've always found that at the end of the game, when it's getting decided who gets the second chance at life, it definitely feels like it's a test of trust for the players. Like with Neku, for example, at the end of the first week, Shiki is the only one who gets a chance at life. Neku has to go back into the game again. Shiki protests this because she doesn't feel it's fair, because she feels Neku did more of the work. But Neku's just like, no, you go, and I will go back in the game. Something that Neku wouldn't have done at the start of the game. And so it definitely feels like it's, that last little question at the end, that last little test at the end of which player it will get revived. It definitely seems to want to test the trust between the two players. But what do you think about the two partner thing, Lanz? And what's your take on the theme of that?
Oh, one thing about the Reapers game is that like all of the Reaper game's like purpose sounds great and lovely, but
Mm.
there's a lot of fuckery in the Reapers
Oh
game.
yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a lot of like you would think that that if Siki and if Siki got to get a second sex at life, that Neku would
Mm.
as well. But it doesn't work out. It didn't work out like that, and it should have worked like that, but
Mm.
it didn't work out like that. So there's a lot of fuckery.
Mm.
And I'm sure we'll talk about more about that fuckery later on.
Oh yeah. We will.
That's a theme throughout the series.
Mm.
But in terms of like the two player, I think the two player system might have been the best iteration of other Reapers game,
Mm.
because like you mentioned, the trust is very important. Um, and you really have to like trust the other your partner
Mm.
to like get to that second chance. Maybe trust is like I feel like maybe not the maybe not the Reapers of a game master, but what's the terminology I'm looking for here? Who's above the game master?
That would be the conductor, who's the leader of the Reapers.
The conductor. Okay, yeah, the
Mm.
conductor. That would be
The guy with the red
the
headphones and the shades.
but is it, oh,
Oh,
it's Joshua.
oh, the composer. Yeah, the actual like
Yeah,
ruler of
yeah,
trivia.
that's yeah, not the guy. Yeah, but I think the composer. I think that's one of the whoever the composer is. I mean, obviously it's Joshua in the first game,
Mm.
but um, but I'm thinking more so in like whoever is in position at that time, not
Mm.
specifically him. But I feel like trust is something that the composer is something that they emphasize, and it's in the vision
Mm.
that they want the players to kind of like adopt and have that be one of the keys to victory in the Reapers game.
Mm.
So that's why I think like the two player system in the original is really is probably the best iteration of the Reapers game
Mm. Oh yeah,
for
like,
that reason.
yeah, and I think that's a very good reason, because it's a lot easier to trust one person than multiple people at once, and then learn to trust one
Yes.
person. But yeah, I definitely like what you said there. Yeah, like where it feels like it feels like the composer wants the teams to adopt that trust, to build up that trust. He wants them to have that trust and to see that trust, because the composer is definitely a mysterious guy. He's definitely a mysterious guy. Obviously, people who played the game, they know him. That it's Joshua. far as we know, he's the only composer. I don't think it's been mentioned about other composers. Of course, we also don't know how long the Reaper's game has gone on for. Um, which is something, yeah, which is also never mentioned. So that could be a very interesting thing as well. Talk about later. But yeah, the trust between the partners is definitely an important thing, especially with the inclusion of the incentives that they are given when they enter the game, called the entry fee. And of course, this entry fee can be anything. It can be something physical like memories or people, or it can be even some it can even be something like immaterial, like Shiki, for example. She lost her appearance, and it's always like whatever is dearest to them. In order, it's whatever's dearest to them at that moment, and the entrance fee definitely tests the trust as well, because of course they get the entrance fee back when they win the game. So this also would mean that both team members would be vying for it to get their most important thing back. Excuse me. And of course, it can definitely put a strain on their trust. Like Shiki, she wasn't in a hurry to get back and get her entrance fee back, because again she wasn't really happy of herself. um, Neku, and then on the flip side, Neku wanted his memories back, so he was urgent to try and get through the game, and it can definitely cause some friction between the two members. Um, but of course, as I said, and as we discussed as well, at the end of the game, it definitely puts another test to their trust between the two team members, because at that point where get the one who doesn't get back, they don't know what's going to happen to their entrance fee until the conductor tells them. That if they go into another game, it's not actually said that they get their entrance fee back straight away. Like Neku, for example, he didn't get all of his memories back straight away. And he then lost Shigi as his next entry fee. So there's definitely the entrance fee definitely can be something that can cause a bit of strain between the team members, but I feel it can definitely help them get along as well. And something from the Reapers game as well is what the Reapers, instead of just doing it like an all-out fight or something as well, they have it in the form of missions. And it's of course, naturally this would assume that if you're going for another chance at life, why a mission each day? Why one mission each day? And it definitely feels like the Reapers are trying to simulate the everyday things that could come with real life. A simple errand in real life, and how that errand could turn into a new adventure or a new experience. So it definitely seems like they're trying to emulate that as a way to maybe make the players be able to adapt to different situations, different things, especially with a variety of missions. Delivery missions, picking up missions, monster hunting missions, stuff like that. But what do you think, Lanz? What's your take on the significance of the missions in the Reaper's game?
I think to evaluate behavior.
Mm.
Um, they want to see how each player responds to different situations. And I think there's also an element of skill points, like how well do you do this mission. And I think those two factors are what determines who earns the most points that day, and obviously who has the most points throughout the whole week to get that second chance.
Yeah, the skill points are definitely important. Yeah, because at the end of the game, it's at the end of the first week, it's the conductor, Katanji. He says that Shiki had gotten the most points out of all the players that were still survived and then they had gotten to the end. So yeah, the missions definitely seem to help with the skill points as well. But it's also a bit woolly as well because Shiki herself says that Neku did more work than she did. He did more of the puzzles than she did and more of the fighting. So how they rank the skills, the skill points, definitely seems to be a mystery as well. Maybe they read
You're right about that.
Mm,
It's like Mario Party, like
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like there's like maybe Siki did go. Maybe you would think that Neku, even though he did the most work,
mm,
would earn all those like points to the Reapers, but
yeah,
maybe they have like a system where that goes against them, like kind of like a Mario Party, maybe
mm,
Siki, maybe we have like a cow, maybe have like a certain like statistic that that Siki did,
mm,
which one of those things might be doing nothing. I mean,
mm.
not that she didn't do nothing. I'm just saying,
Oh no,
using it
no.
as an example. Um, and that's why she got to. After seeing this, we got the chance uh to get that second chance, and Neku was denied.
Mm. Oh yeah, and going throughout the game as well with the whole the whole theme of trying to get the players to trust each other as well. It can definitely be seen. It can definitely shown that Shiki Shiki did more than Neku in that aspect. She tried to open up to him more. She tried to get him to open up. She tried to get him to start helping her bridge that start building that trust. So it's very possible that that could be what the skill points are in the Reapers game as well. How
That's a good point.
how they build up that trust. How the players build up that trust between each other. So it could be it could very well be that Shiki was the leader in the points and that because she managed to get Neku to build up the trust when he was most likely the most stubborn player to not want to use teamwork. Um, but yeah, the missions definitely seem to have that kind of like that skill aspect of them. Like to showcase the player's skills so and again to see if they're ready to go back to a new life. Um, because and going and continuing on from what we said about the trust between them as well, because the way to form a team as well is both members have to agree to a pact, which as many people might know, a pact is like an agreement or an oath, a vow, and it's usually a bond of a pact of trust, an oath of trust between people. So even just the actual the making of the pact is a sign that the Reapers want the players to be able to trust each other. But going on from that as well. The enemies of the Reaper game as well. The noise. Um, of all the enemies the Reapers possibly could create, why noise? Why creatures based around sound and noise and sound and reverberations? And it definitely seems like the Reaper's game is supposed to simulate like supposed to symbolize like the music of life. Like everyone moving to each other's beat and like the cacophony of the bustling life and people bustling about socially and that. Because the World Ends of You does have a very big music aspect, a very very big music theme to it, and a lot of people have used the term for death as the final swan song. So again, music related. So it's very, so again, using the creatures known as noise, there's definitely a significance there of why going for music. Um, and I think even Kitanji, the conductor himself, says to ask Neku, "Can you feel it? Can do you like?" Or he asks Neku, "Do you like music?" And he then goes on to explain how life can be like music. The ebbs and flows of life. That everyone moving to their own beat, everyone grooving, their own vibing. But what do you think, Lanz, about the theme of music in the Reapers game and its significance?
I think the best way for me to answer that question, I think it's more. I think I'm gonna turn to Neo
Mm,
for this one because Neo has those like. I think the more like feel like the more difficult the the more difficult the noise is to fight, the
Yeah.
stronger the noise, the more like trauma, the more like negative emotion
Mm.
come from comes from that person, thus becoming, thus creating those noise.
Mm.
And you know, in Neo, you do these like you do these waves of like fighting noise, and it feels like they get tougher and tougher and tougher. And I
Mm.
feel like that's kind of like symbolism of like how negative um emo- these these people's emotions can get.
Mm.
And that's why, that's why these, it's kind of like unversed in Kingdom Hearts, but I think that's a good. I know they'll call. I know it's kind of like, I know it's not like music here, but in
Mm.
terms of like, I think that's the easiest like comparison is like negative
Mm.
emotions creating like these creatures.
Mm.
and and again, like in Neo, the more, the stronger they are, the louder they are,
Mm.
the more challenging they are to defeat. I think that really shows like how how um, how much trauma, how much negative emotions can be
Mm.
created in the noise to kind of like to really put Sabuya in a
Mm.
in such a dangerous position.
Oh yeah, like yeah, yeah. You bring up a good point there with the negative emotions. Yeah, because yeah, because the Reaper's game isn't just about music as well. Music, if you're not just thinking about music, there's definitely the emotion aspect of it as well. Even because a lot of the because a lot some of the missions in the games in both Tui and Neo, some of them do involve people suffering from negative emotions and thus creating more noise around them. And it definitely seems to feel like with that aspect of the Reaper's game as well, where the Reapers have made it so noise are brought on by negative emotions by people around them, and the players have to deal with these negative emotions. It definitely feels like it's a test to see how the players will be able to handle changing emotions and how to deal with the emotions that they tried to run away from and didn't want to the the emotions they didn't want to confront as they when they were alive again. So it definitely feels like the Reapers are trying to with the Reapers again. They're trying to push the people to respond to these negative emotions to try and get past them. Like with Neku and his loneliness, and Neku and his feeling like he doesn't need everyone. He feeling like he does he should just be alone. And it definitely feels like he was trying, the Reapers were trying to push him to confront that as well. So yeah, what you said about the negative emotions, and yeah, it's a very good point, because again, like the noise are drawn to negative emotions as well, and and it again, like with the players game, it definitely challenges the players, because it makes them think, okay, these emotions we're fighting up, we're trying to stop these emotions, and it's like you said with the trauma, because they do end up a lot of the time they do end up it does end up thinking about the kind of trauma that they had as well, like with Shiki and the trauma of what feeling like she was a failure of her dream, like the dream of trying to be a seamstress and that. So yeah, the negative emotions definitely, it definitely feels like I said, it definitely feels like the Reapers are trying to show that trying to see how they react to the negative emotions, how they can combat them, and how they can get past those negative emotions. It definitely feels like that, because because there's definitely a lot of emotion around the Reaper's game and around Shibuya evolving the Reaper's game as well. I can't remember which character says it, but one character says something about how Shibuya is in constant flux. The constant emotions crashing down and around everyone's thoughts and feelings, all turning into this big, massive noise. Um, and yeah, and it definitely feels like, yeah, there's like the Reaper's game is one big battle of emotions and thoughts and feelings coming together. Um, Something of which many people would have to, everyone would have to face in real life. Different thoughts and feelings crashing together. So it definitely feels like the Reaper's game is trying to prepare them to see if they can deal with that when they get another chance at life. And it's it's definitely a lot of thought provoking stuff. Definitely a lot of thought provoking stuff. And yes, and of course, with the Reaper's game as well. Moving on to Neo's point of view as well. The Reaper's game ends up changing as well because in Neo, for those who don't know, in Neo Enter the World, in Neo Tui, instead of two-party teams, they have to form just a team. It doesn't matter how much it could be any size, as long as I think as long as it's two players at minimum, they can be any size. And the game isn't split over just 1 week anymore. It's now split over multiple weeks as far as many teams as there are. And it definitely is a very odd feeling of this change in format. And I feel like it's the game's kind of evolved. I'm going to learning to trust that one person who can be important to you, to learning to open up to multiple people, which again is more difficult. Um, and it definitely shows in the game because at the start, the two characters, Rindo and what was his name, Frey. Um, Originally it's only just those
Fret.
two. Fret, that's it. Thank you. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, Fret, thank you. Yeah, it definitely feels like only those, like they only have those two, and they don't really open up to each other that much. Even to each other, they still hide some emotions on that. So the Reaper's game
Are they like
being,
best friends though?
oh yeah, they were best friends. Yes. Oh yeah. But it's like as Shiki and her friend Eri told us in the first game, even best friends can still hide stuff from each other as well.
Yeah, yeah. You know what?
Yeah, like
That's definitely a thing.
because obviously there's the things that we're scared to face ourselves, so we don't want to burden our best friends with it. We hide it away. But and this is definitely pushed in the team format of Neo's Reapers game again, where it's massive teams going against each other. But what are your thoughts on this? Like the change in format to big massive teams, Lands.
I like the game of Neo
Mm,
better,
mm,
but I thought the two. I like. I prefer the two person
mm.
system better. Personally, I there's definitely like it's definitely development, like when it
Yeah.
comes to like being on teams, but like you can really feel it more when it's only two people.
Mm.
We have like all these people on the team. You can't. There's it's a lot of like. There's a lot of like. There's a lot to go around.
Mm.
Um, when in terms of like writing and development, and I really felt like you felt it like. I felt that was stronger in in the OG with the two player system as
Mm.
opposed to teams. I still think the teams are cool. I still think I still think it's a cool concept.
Mm.
I think both of them. I enjoy both of them, but like in terms of like, I just felt like you really felt the purpose of what the game is trying to tell you more when it's a two-player
Mm.
system as opposed to like all these teams. Because again, there's a lot going around. There's a lot of like characters you have to like develop,
Yeah.
and I mean they successfully did that. There's a couple characters in the game that I felt were forgotten about.
Mm.
That's kind of like not really on topic with what we talk about today, but I feel like that's kind of
No.
like a thing where you have like all these characters and
Yeah.
on the same team, other characters are gonna get forgotten about that shouldn't be forgotten about. So that's why I felt like it was probably better for them to focus on the two player system as opposed to the team system.
Oh yeah. No. No. I can definitely see. Yeah, I can definitely see your point there as well. Yeah. Like it definitely
And I
seems
think
to
there's
be.
also like
Oh, sorry.
And I was also like, I feel like with, I'm sorry, this came to my mind
No, you're fine.
after, but I feel like there's like, I feel like there's more lessons to learn with the two-player system
Mm.
than than the group system. Like you can see that progressing more. It's more clear than it
Mm.
is with like all these people like on teams and shit.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, as you were.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I was supposed to say, yeah, but no, you bring up some very good points. Yeah, like it definitely is a lot easier connecting with one person and working in tandem with one person, because then it's just you and that person. But then if there's a big group, they all have to bring their conflicting ideas together to try and bring them into one big machine that could work. Excuse me, I apologize. But yeah, it definitely seems like there's a lot more effort that goes into a big team. So yeah, it definitely when it comes to trying to build the trust, the duo definitely seems to be the more efficient one. Two people building that trust. Excuse me. Because even the teams as well can also lead to even to some infighting as well, where some of the teams they didn't agree with what each other did. Sometimes there would be a bit of arguments, and it definitely seems a lot harder to trust. Which is of course, as we've already said, it seems like that's what the composer wants. They want the players to learn that trust. Um, but yeah, and one thing that's never really explained as well is because in between Tui and Neo, the Shibuya Reapers get ousted, and the Shinjuku Reapers from Shinjuku come in and they take control. And this change in format is definitely very jarring. It definitely brings a whole new theme to the game. Definitely brings a whole new theme to the Reapers game, where and it definitely feels like it's it's like this the Neo's Reapers game is trying to put you more. It's trying to showcase more of the struggle in life. Where you're going to be against more people. There's going to be more people that you have to survive against. Sorry, sorry, but just it is late here. um, but yeah, there's definitely feels like more people you have to survive against. Like it definitely seems to show that life is more of a it's more of a drawn out battle between people and and these groups that you end up going with as well. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of nuance to both Reapers games. Um, but moving on from that as well, I want to talk about the whole point of the Reapers game itself as well, because one conversation the composer has with the conductor is he says that he wants to erase Shibuya off the map because he feels that Shibuya has stagnated. Um, and he feels that Shibuya has stagnated and that Shibuya has basically it lacks imagination now. Um, and it's never actually explained, apart from the whole trying to give people another chance at life. It's never actually explained why the Reapers game came about in the first place. Um, but from this conversation, it can be gleamed that the composer created the Reapers game as a way to see if Shibuya can change, if Shibuya can, if all the people's all the isolation of all the people and the individuality can all come together to help change Shibuya. Um, and we definitely see that change happen in both games. The Reaper's game definitely ends up changing Shibuya. Um, but this whole thing of the composer feeling like the game is a failure in some, and it can make me think that maybe it's all just some experiment to him, or maybe like a game on a chessboard. But what's your take on this, Lanz? Like the general like idea of why the composer is doing the Reapers game.
I think it's also like we mentioned like that it's like I think more so in Neo
Mm.
more than OG
Mm.
that the players are not only fighting for the second chance of life, but they're fighting for society
Mm.
of Shibuya to they're like they're fighting for Shibuya too. Like
Mm.
they're fighting to prove that Shibuya can continue to exist.
Mm.
So it's not only I think there's a big difference in between OG and in and Neo
Hmm.
that's what they're looking to do is because that has a big as they do as a big theme in especially in the end of Neo
Hmm.
is that they want to that the Shinjuku Reapers because they lost their home they really want to they want they want they want to get Shibuya out of here they and then they eventually warm up to the idea of staying in Shibuya once the Wicked Twisters
Hmm.
win and eventually and successfully showcase why Shibuya deserves to continue to exist.
Hmm. Yeah, because as we can see with with the Wicked Twisters, the Wicked Twisters, each of them have that individuality the composer was looking for. They have their own individual thoughts, their dreams, their own ideals, and they all come together to help. As you said at the end, they prove that Shibuya can change. Shibuya can still have imagination. It can still grow. It's not just stuck in one place, stagnated. Um, because because obviously we have Rindo just wants to chill with friends, and he end up learning what's more important. You've got Nagi who just wanted to play her games. Like they all their ideas come together to again show that Shibuya can in fact change. And this of course this all happens because of the Reapers game. It feels more like it feels less like a battlefield of just teams and more like everyone's coming together to try and prove that their idea of imagination, their idea of change and how Shibuya should go is it feels like more like they're all trying to prove that their way of changing Shibuya is the correct way. And it definitely the Reapers game definitely brings out a lot of this, a lot of individuality with it. And we can also see as well that it's not even the players themselves in the game as well, because we can now move on to of course the Reapers themselves as well, the aforementioned Reapers, the gate, the guardians of the game, the watchers of the game. And they definitely because the Reapers there's all kinds of Reapers. And they're the ones who stand at the streets of Shibuya, and they lock the doors, like they build up the walls that players have to prove themselves to get past. But then of course you also have the Reapers who purposely go out and hunt down players. They're ones that they're the ones that who give out the missions. They're the ones who summon the noise to test the players. And it definitely feels like the Reapers are they're all judges on, they're all in their own way, they're all trying to judge what aspect of the what aspect of life the player needs to get tested, to have tested to be able to get back to life. Because there's all sorts of things the Reapers do. Like, again, all sorts of missions. Some of them will just summon noise to test the players in battle. And then, of course, in the seventh day, the Reapers all get the order of the players are fair game. Reapers can now attack players. And why this only happens on the seventh day is never actually been really extended upon. But what's your take on the Reapers? Like the Reapers, like test, like it seems like they're testing the players each day in their own way. What's your take on that, Lanz?
My take on that is that I think a lot of Reapers have like different personalities
Mm.
and different motives throughout both games, and I mean a lot of it comes from the conductor as well.
Mm.
What they want their Reapers, what they want their Reapers to do. Some of them as like some of them do go kind of like rogue s
Yeah.
like Soki. She
Mm.
kind of goes a little bit rogue s as well. I mean, she definitely operates on her own, but
Yeah.
also so she have those moments where she like helps out players, but she also goes against them as well.
Mm.
So I feel like I think a lot of them do stick out like C does.
Mm.
Oh, also I mean we knew we were going to talk about this character, but So Minamoto,
Yeah.
um, very very memorable Reaper
Oh yeah.
in
Yeah.
the first game.
Mm.
Um, Obviously he is definitely more by the books.
Mm.
In the first game, as he's probably more example of someone who's more by the books in the first game,
Yeah.
even though he is memorable, has his own motives. But like in the second game, Soki is kind of like definitely like very like loose in terms of
Mm.
in terms of like alliances. So I think it really I think it really depends on the Reaper and the conductor and the relationship with the conductor and the Reaper.
Mm. Oh yeah, like yeah, it definitely, like you said, they definitely. It seems like the Reapers all have their own motives. Like you said, Shoki. She likes Shibuya. She doesn't want to see Shibuya destroyed. So, it ends up and she ends up, like you said, going rogue because she doesn't want to get destroyed. And then Sho, he's very a bit by the book as well, but he also ends up going rogue because he wants to topple the composer. Um, so yeah, it definitely seems like the Reapers have their own like they all have their own like motive, despite all having to test their job is being test the players. It definitely seems like they all have their own motive, and it definitely feels like they themselves are players as well because it definitely.
Definitely, yeah, I can see
Mm,
that.
yeah, because a lot we see a lot of their motives, like they get tested, they get put in question. Like I can't remember her name, Araya. I can't remember, pink haired lady. I can't remember. I can't remember her name right, but yeah, the pink haired Reaper. She wants to rise to the top while her partner wants to stay as just a typical grunt because while he's got the power of an officer, he's not bothered.
Usuki?
That's it, Yuzuki. Thank you. Yeah, it took me a while because I haven't played two in a while, but yeah, they definitely have their own motives, and again, Sho wants to topple the composer. Shoki just wants to enjoy Shibuya because she likes Shibuya. So it definitely feels like it's not just the players trying to get a new chance at life, but it's like they're being forced to go against the Reapers, to show that they to maybe test them. What can you do against other people who have their own ideals, their own motives, their own reasons for what they do, and something that's hinted at, and not many people seem to not many people seem to have remembered it as well. But it's actually hinted that all the Reapers in the Reapers game used to be players. They were all players who chose to be Reapers instead of going back to life. So it
I
it
think a good example of that is a
mm,
beat was a player that he
oh
became
yeah.
a Reaper, then he went back to being a player, and Soki does the same thing.
Mm,
Because Soki at the end, after they found after the wicked twisters found out she kind of betrayed them, she went back to being a player
yeah. Yeah, she got kicked from the Reapers.
and stripped herself of her
Mm,
Reaper status.
yeah. Because it's like, like you said, Beat, like he chose to be a Reaper at the end of week 2. Um, no, he chose to be a player at the end, a Reaper at the end of week 1. Because he wanted to find out, he wanted to be able to use the pin of Rhyme. He wanted to be able to summon his sister. He's trying to summon his sister back. Um, Obviously, it didn't work out the way he wanted. She didn't come back in her human form, but he at least got her back. So it definitely seems like the Reapers definitely the players all had their own reasons for becoming a Reaper, or in Shoki's case, the reverse where she got her powers stripped. But she didn't really care actually. From what I remember, she didn't really care because at that point she was ready to fight against the Reapers. But yeah, it definitely shows that the Reapers game is definitely more less. It's not just a fight for survival, but it's a clash of ideals because again you got the players and the Reapers coming together, and it the Reapers game definitely seems to be able to like it's like the composer has made it that way so the players to test where that really show the players maybe show the players what could happen if they choose not to go back. Like if they decide that they don't want to change, but instead they want to stay as they are. But maybe there's another way. Maybe maybe it can. It's like a temptation. Like do you go back and try and change who you are to a better life, so you can be worthy of the second chance, or do you stay as you are and become a Reaper? So it definitely seems like the Reaper game is like it can be seen as maybe the players aren't dead exactly. Maybe the players are in limbo. Maybe the Reaper's game because the Reaper's game is held in a parallel Shibuya that is
The
side.
UG.
Yes, the underground. It's a parallel Shibuya that is right. It's intermingled with the real ground, the real Shibuya. So the Reaper's game definitely feels like it's very like it's limbo. Um, and so maybe the players aren't dead exactly. Maybe they're like they are in the process of being dead, and the Reaper's game was the last test of to prove are they worthy. Because something that comes to mind is ancient Egypt. Um, I think it was Anubis, the god of the underworld. He would weigh the person who was going to the underworld. He would weigh their heart against a feather. If their heart did not weigh more than the feather, they would be granted access to the afterlife. And so it definitely feels like the Reaper's game is that as that kind of thing. Like where are you able to change are you able to change to prove that you are worthy of that second chance of life, or are you going to become a reaper and stay stuck and stay in the underground, and stay in that limbo? So yeah, it definitely feels like the Reaper's game is that sort of again that in between life and death, to that last little challenge to see like again like that last little yeah, like Ratfor in the said, like Ratfor in chat has just said, like like it's like the players are wandering souls, and the Reaper's game is how they can decide where they go. Do they want to go back to come back to life and prove that they can change, or do they not and go back to life and stay and become Reapers? So yeah, it definitely feels like there's a limbo kind of aspect to it. Um, and yeah, and like and again, like I said, the creation of the Reaper's game itself, we don't actually know. And even at the end of the Reaper's game in the first game as well, we see them. They go to Shibuya River. They beat the conductor. They find out who the composer is. Um, they find out who the composer is, and Neku and Joshua have a game to where, where if Neku wins, then the Shibuya doesn't get destroyed. Um, but Neku loses, and Joshua doesn't destroy Shibuya. So it definitely because Joshua himself also ended up playing the Reaper's game in week 2 as a player, as a legal player, due to him also having a game with the conductor about whether or not Shibuya gets destroyed. And it definitely feels like that the Reaper's game's lessons aren't just limited to humans and players. It can also extend to the composer himself. Because when we see Joshua have this conversation with the conductor about destroying Shibuya, we see Joshua as kind of cold. He comes across as cold, like he doesn't care about Shibuya. He thinks no less of it. But then as we see him go through week 2, he definitely changes as much as Neku changed in the first week. He starts to see the potential in Shibuya, and the individuality and imagination. But what?
So destroying Shibuya was also a thing in OG.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
because
okay.
yeah.
I forgot about that detail.
No. That's perfectly valid. That's perfectly valid. Yeah, yeah. You find out at the end of the game, Joshua wanted to destroy Shibuya because he felt that it was stagnating. And so
Okay.
that if his proxy, aka Neku, did not beat the game, then Shibuya would be destroyed. Um, no, so if Neku beat the game, then against the conductor, then yeah, Shibuya will be destroyed. But like I said, Joshua, he didn't destroy Shibuya even though Neku lost. Um, he didn't destroy Shibuya. So it definitely seems like, yeah, like I said, he grew in week two in the game as well. But what do you think about how the Reaper's game affected Joshua as he played as well, and how it affected his change, Lands?
You know, even though he is he is a composer.
Mm.
He's not immune to he wasn't immune to development and
Mm.
growth himself. I really think spending time with Naku, who also grew in that time. I think that people can like kind of like grow
Mm.
and kind of like improve like at the same time. I think like being around somebody who's growing can also make you wanna like grow as well. I think
Mm.
it can be contagious, and I think Joshua kind of I think that's happened to Joshua. You know, he saw Neku like kind of like adapting and improving as a person. Really, really kind of like was contagious for him.
Mm. Oh yeah, because because like, and it's definitely something that correlates to real life as well. We a lot of humans will change. Well, a lot of humans will change to fit their environment. They see people changing around them, and they end up changing themselves. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the good. You may have friends who are more happy and easygoing, and eventually you end up being more happy and easygoing. You end up enjoying, the simple pleasures in life. Or you laugh more. So yeah, you bring up a good point where it definitely seems like Joshua was affected by the change Neku had gone through, and that way Neku was more social. Neku was more willing to help people out instead of just going not my problem. So yeah, it definitely feels like, yes, the composer himself changed as the game went on. He he was trying at first. He was trying to see if Shibuya was was keeping, or should it be destroyed. But as he went on, and played the game with Neku, he then got lost in the game and realized that the game, Shibuya has still got that imagination, that potential for greatness, the potential for a great society. And it's it definitely feels like the Reaper's game is in this nature. It definitely feels like the Reaper's game is like it's an ever changing, ever like influx. Like it's not just become a simple survival game, a simple test. It's become more of a living thing that's in flux. Like it's a constant. It's become like a constant, a natural kind of like ever changing phenomenon. Because of course we can see it got changed in Neo the World Ends of View, where the Shinjuku Reapers, they brought in the new rules of the game, the new style of the game, but it still had that sensation of being in flux. It still had that sensation of being in flux, that sensation of subject to change, just like the players in the game. And it definitely shows the power of the Reaper's game. The the symbolism of that. All it could be, all it should, not all, like all it can be, is just a simple change. Like just a simple change. Like it can bring about change. It could bring about things that people would not expect. Things that people wouldn't see in themselves. Um, but yeah, it definitely feels like the Reaper's game has evolved between the games. Because and this is also shown in like certain rules as well, because the Shibuya rule play Reapers have different rules. Excuse me. Oh Jesus, I need to stop yawning. And there's also something about the Reapers game as well, because I said about it maybe in Limbo. Um, it said that the weak players are erased. People who fail the game are erased, but it's never actually said what this means. Um, it the Reapers say that you get erased from existence, but it's never implied. It's never said what it means, and it could be implied that by being erased from existence, this also means all memory of you as well. Because of course, if you're erased, then it's like you never existed. So it definitely feels like the Reaper's game is definitely more, it's intertwined with life and the very essence of a person's, being in existence. But what would you say about that, to Lanz? How would you say it's like linked to the very existence of players in general and the whole like erasure?
Well, Kubo, they didn't remember him when he
Mm.
got like erased, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, once you get erased, I think that like
Mm.
anybody in the RG will forget about you, and it's like as if you never existed, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Mm.
But when I think of the term erased, that's what I think of.
Mm. Yeah, like as if you never existed in that. Like it's like with in a sort of way, it's like Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Like Namne was able to erase and rewrite Sora's memories to the point where Kairi didn't exist in that. So it definitely seems like a same kind of thing, where the Reapers have the ability to the Reapers have an ability to erase them complete erasure, like a complete out of existence. I mean, and it definitely seems to add to the adrenaline of the game as well. The survival aspect, because it definitely it gives players more of an urgency. Is like, yeah, okay, if I'm going to get away from more existence, people aren't even going to mourn my death because they won't remember me. Um, so it definitely adds to the urgency of it. Of you need to change to prove that you deserve this chance at life, or it'll be like you've never had. We can make it like you've never had that life. So it definitely puts into a lot of like it's very thought provoking of what does it mean to really live and die, and be a race. Like is it and even some players ended up choosing to be erased of their own free will because they felt that it was hopeless. So the erasure definitely adds to the hopelessness of the situation and seeing how the players can fight against that hopelessness. Um, and I mentioned earlier about how the generally only one player gets to go back to life. Um, it's one thing to note as well is it's something. The example, because obviously I used the example in the first week of one player. It's actually pre-selected by the composer himself as well. So it definitely feels like that it's at the whims of Joshua. Like like not just the highest scoring player, but it's like he looks at these players and goes, this and this player have shown they're worthy. And so it definitely feels like again, it's that that survival, that dog eat dog world, that dog eat dog thing of that real life has, where you have to strive to be better. You have to strive to be better and such. But there's definitely a lot of big survival aspect. Um, I think going I think after Twin Ends of You, I'm not sure if the Reaper's game is still going on. We we haven't really been shown any of that. But I think at this point I think we've covered a lot of it. Unless there's anything that comes to mind from you, Lanz, that you think we haven't covered.
In terms of Reaper's game, I think we really covered everything. Really, I think the motives of everyone involved, the stakes that the game
Mm.
entails. Like I feel like it's well, I do believe that OG truly, really, I think they're the best version. But I think both OG and Neo really had good narrative
Mm.
um results from the Reaper's game in each game.
Oh yeah, yeah. It definitely seemed to have better results. Definitely.
A lot of lessons to be learned.
Mm.
I do think that OG was probably more like groundbreaking
Yeah.
because a lot of people who grew up with Tui, we were a lot of us were like teenagers when we, or even younger when we played
Hmm.
OG Tui. So I think a lot of the lessons learned in that game were probably more impactful than in Neo, where like we're kind of like a lot of us were like in our late 20s or our 30s, and a lot we already like knew a lot of that stuff. But I still think
Yeah.
the storytelling is good in Neo for sure.
Oh yeah, and for anyone who hasn't played either of the two games, I def recommend it. Def recommend it. But yeah, guys, I think we've covered everything there. Everything we can cover on the Reapers game. Once again, thank you, Lanz, for joining me for this. I really do
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me. I
Yeah, it's
enjoy
been great.
talking about Tui. I haven't really talked about Tui in a couple
Hmm.
of years. So it was really cool to revisit it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely fun. And if any of you are not following Lanz, please go and check him out. He is an awesome dude, as you can no doubt tell from this episode. Great content, amazing challenges, and MDA nominee for his gameplay challenges. In fact, Main Dreams Award nominee. So,
Winner.
oh yeah, and
Winner.
winner exactly.
Excellent.
Yes, he is a past winner of that as well. So yeah, hopefully you guys will check him out. Give him a follow if you like Kingdom Hearts or just amazing people. But yes, to everyone on Twitch and YouTube, once again, thank you for watching this. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I hope you give it a like and subscribe. And I hope you guys will join me on the 4th of September as well, for my next episode, for episode 10, which is a bit of a milestone for me. And episode 10 is going to be a bit of a controversial one. Because for episode 10, I'm going to be talking about Jecht from Final Fantasy X. Was he really I'm going to talk about the man behind the monster. Was he really as bad as people say? Like, we've seen how he is with Tidus. We've seen how he is as Sin. Was he as really bad? Was he actually a good guy? I'm going to go into more depth for episode 10 about my man Jecht, and hopefully you guys will join me for that episode as well. But yeah, if there's so Lanz, what's next on your content as well? For
Well,
you.
this weekend, I'm going to be a part of Fast Faces.
Hmm.
Fast Faces is the KX2 randomizer tournament. That is a beginner friendly, and it is qualifiers happening August 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Ooh.
And it is also a fundraiser event for the Ukraine.
Ooh.
The cause being called Project Hope is a crisis fund for the Ukraine. And anybody who is interested in one of the KX2 Rando, if anybody is interested in joining Fast Faces, you can use code Lanz when signing up to
Nice.
be a part of the tournament.
Hmm.
And if you use code Lanz, Roro, the founder, Roro Maniac 8, he's the founder of Fast Faces. He's donating $5 for every person who successfully completes a qualifier in Fast Faces 3.
Nice.
But if you use code Lanz, he'll donate $7.50. But I add an additional stipulation to that as well.
Hmm.
Anybody who uses code Lanz and lets me know about it, I will donate $7.50 myself. So that would be a total of $15.
Ooh.
For anybody who uses code Lanz, that will go to Project Hope.
Well, there you go, guys. If any of you are interested in Kingdom Hearts 2 randos, there you go. That you could potentially join Fresh Faces and help a great cause as well. So hopefully you guys will check that out. But yes, once again, thank you, Lanz, again for joining. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
To everyone watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please, let me know what you think in the comments. And for everyone on Twitch, thank you for coming onto the podcast. Yeah, but to everyone on YouTube, this is Dark Bahamut signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next episode.